Welcome back to episode number 4
Oh,
of Let the Boys Watch, a entertainment podcast brought to you by Going Great Productions. I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Robbie. Alongside of me is a man who runs on Wonder Bread and Steak Fritz for the past 20 years, cousin Benny.
I haven't had a good shit in those 20 years.
I've seen him never. And another man who forgot to wear his compression socks. So he could look sexy for his guma. Our co-host, Ryan.
who's wearing who's talking about the compression socks?
I think it was Tom.
That's
I mean, I just want to say that was a great introduction by the man who's getting his melancholy everywhere. Cousin Rob.
that's all right.
All over my what, tuna tacos?
Yeah.
So yeah, like Robbie said, this is Let the Boys Watch, and we are doing a review of Succession season 4. This episode is also episode 4, called The Honeymoon States. It got a 9.3 on IMDb, just for frame of reference. Also, episode 3 is still holding strong at 9.9. It actually was at 10 for a little bit, with like 10,000 reviews, which is insanity. At least to me, maybe not to you guys, but
I think they said somebody with the name Death Cab, I'm a cutie, kind of devalued that score. They said it came from undisclosed location, but the guy's name was Ryan, last name redacted.
that was not me. I don't do internet reviews.
Oh, okay.
Although this is an internet review, so maybe I do. So what would you guys' overall impressions of this episode? A little bit, obviously last week's was a big episode. This week was, kind of dealing with the fallout, but still overall a pretty good episode. What'd you guys think? Robbie, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. I thought it was another great episode. Very, very humorous, especially after, last week's kind of grief heavy, doom and gloom type episode.
Right.
Thought it was nice to have everybody in one room together. I don't think it lacked, I guess, star power or pizzazz with Brian Cox not being there. I think I kind of enjoyed it even more because all the big players got bigger parts. Anytime you can give me more Frank, Jerry, and Carl, I'm all in. We even had a little Stephen Root for a couple minutes.
Yeah, that was nice.
But man, I thought another solid episode. I mean, this final season is so far going out with a bang, and I love it. Obviously, great performances again, written superb. Marsha, take a fucking hike. You're the worst. And it was great to see Kendall break bad, which we'll kind of go on and talk about in this episode. But another fantastic episode. I don't really have anything negative to say about it.
Benny.
Yeah, I thought so originally when the episode ended, I was like, all right, not a lot happened here. Just, it was kind of that, we always talk about that middle season fodder on a lot of shows.
Right.
But the more I thought about it, the more, I loved it. Yeah, am I going to put it up there? There are 2 episodes this year where I said, wow, some of the greatest episodes of this show. No, they're not that, but you know, at the end I was like, was this the Logan episode? Was this the Kendall episode or was this the Carl episode? Because they were going back and forth as to who owned the day. But like Robbie said, I was glad to see it went very humor heavy after last week, and it's one of the show things the shows does so great. But I loved the emotion from Kendall, from the beginning to the end. Like, he starts that episode in a deep depression, and the final shot we get of Kendall, it's just he goes through the whole range of emotion the whole episode. So I thought it was a great app. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, it was a good episode. I think I don't know. As usual, my thoughts on it are probably a little tempered compared to yours. Like, I liked it. It wasn't as good as last week, but overall, still, I'm kind of like, yeah, it's good, but I don't know. It's just, it doesn't hit the same for me as it does for you guys, and it's fine. I still like it. I'm enjoying watching it, but I'm not like sucking its dick like you two.
Yeah. Do you think you enjoy the episodes a little bit more knowing that we're going to do the breakdown and we're going to kind of dive deep into them. Has this doing this like elevated your like of the show?
100%. I think if I wasn't doing this, I don't know. I don't know if like I'd be as into it at all. Like I might even stop watching, to be
Really?
honest. And not because again, I don't like it, but that's just what I do. Like I don't if I'm not like super engaged, I'm just like, I'll just fucking read about the plot summary in like 6 weeks or something.
Yeah.
I don't have as much time as I used to, so
Yeah.
it's
I
precious.
don't really think me and Benny are fucking, slobbering on the knob.
No, I know. I'm exaggerating.
I think like you said, I don't know, something about shows like this to me. I just love dialogue, and I love, like, again, the plot and the scheme, and I love a great written show. So that's why it brings me in. But the internet was talking. They were up in arms. They were roaring and soaring. But they want to know this week they're on Plum Watch. So if you can give us a 10 out of 10 plums.
Um, I'll go 7.1. Still
Okay.
good, above average. I mean,
I mean,
again,
to
that's
me,
on my scale. Like I get it that it's people probably think it's low, but for me, that's still very good.
what the show is, I mean, we've talked about it a few times where like nothing major happens. It always kind of feels like you're running in circles a little bit. To me, it's the acting and it's the writing, and it's, every time, like, you can't, I don't want to say count a character out because it's not like they're doing major things, but like you forget about a character. Like they come in with an episode where you're just like, yo, he's a great actor. She's a great actress. Like
Yeah.
that's what I love about the show, is like everybody's always so on point. And I feel like the cinematography this season has been on a whole other level. Everything just feels like right in your face. Like this season 4, man, bangers only.
Like Logan's birthday party.
That's true.
Um, so yeah, no, I mean, again, it's good. Everything you're saying is true. I agree with everything you guys are saying, but it just doesn't get me going. Like some other shows, but I still like it. Cinematography, acting, writing, it's all awesome. But I don't know.
Well, this would be a perfect way to segue into if you disagree with Ryan, if you
Yeah,
disagree with me or Robbie,
yeah.
we have an email. It's ltbwpodcast@gmail.com. We have an Instagram, Let the Boys Watch Pod on Instagram. You can email us. You can slide into our DMs. Tell us, who you agree with, who you want to see succeed at the end, who you want, to get their comeuppance. Anything you want to talk about this show, maybe give us some requests as to the things you want us to start watching after. Robbie and I have not seen a lot of movies. I feel like that's going to be one of the things we dive into on this podcast. So any of that stuff you want to talk about us, hit us up on the email and hit us up on the Instagram, which will be in the show notes.
Big save, Benny. We almost forgot again.
I know.
Fucking worst. So yeah, please email us, send us a message, follow us, rate us, review us, all that fun stuff. We really appreciate it. So what'd you guys think of this opening scene? I actually liked this opening scene a lot. Showing all the kids kind of like just hanging out at home, getting ready. They're different, maybe not perspectives isn't the right word, but like their feelings this morning. And it kind of was echoed later on when they're first talking, how Roman's kind of seemed like okay in the morning. Kendall's a sad sack piece of shit. And Shiv gets a phone call. Did you guys know what was happening right away? Or were you kind of confused about that phone call?
As soon as she said, start talking about the amniocentesis, I got slapped in the leg by
Yeah.
my better half. She was like, I called it. I knew it. I
Yeah.
know. Shout out PM2.
That's right.
Brought it up in an email for us. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot for us to talk about there as we go on in some of the Shiv and Tom interactions in this
Yep.
episode. But it's definitely a nice little curveball that they threw in there.
Do you think it's Tom's?
I think 100%. Yeah, I think because while we know Shiv is a little promiscuous and she likes to, take out her grief on a in-car handy, from time to time.
Some of the best.
I think what makes the best story is it's Tom's kid. So I think that, they're not going to stray from that. What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I thought it was a great opening scene. I thought it was really cool to see the different kids going through, I guess, the early grieving stages, the day after their father died, and what they were going through and their emotions. Obviously, you saw it. It hit Kendall the worst. I was watching. I was like, man, Roman doesn't give a fuck. But even he says it in like the middle episode, like, yeah, I guess I pre-grieved. He goes, but it'll definitely hit me later. So like he knows, obviously. And then the ship thing, yeah, like once the doctor started talking, I was like, oh my God, I didn't think they were going to bring the pregnancy in, like real life pregnancy in, but once they did, now it just opens the door for Tom to stay in. If it's his kid, he's back. He's
What I
got
say.
that little trump card. Shout out 45. But but yeah, I mean, yeah, I thought it was a great opening scene. You got Kendall sad sacking it up like he does so well. So yeah, it was a nice little touch in the opening scene.
Yeah, agree. And I think like you made a good point there. I think that was Benny about the best story, or was that Robbie who said that?
That was me.
Yeah, like I have to I have to stop thinking that this story is like other shows where it's like crazy shit's gonna happen. Like it really should be like best story. Um, so like we're not gonna get like that it was fucking some random dudes, like maybe it's like Carl's baby or something. I don't, something like fucking wild. That's not gonna happen. It's gonna be Tom. They're gonna get back together, like I said they were, and that's the end of the story.
See, I still don't see them getting together, man. You see the way Shiv reacts to him. Like, yes, she does it when she falls down and she's like, don't fucking touch me. But even that moment that they have on the stairs where he he tells that story about when they first met and
Yeah,
he's trying to be nice to her and be a shoulder for her to cry on. He like ever so slightly touches her leg and she like recoils.
yeah.
Like it's not even like, please, this isn't what's best for us right now. She almost looks like she's disgusted by one of the disgusting brothers.
Now,
Yeah.
do you think she's disgusted because, yeah, we know why she's disgusted, but do you think she's disgusted because she knows that now he's coming to kind of soften her up a little bit with a nice little story when they first met, because he's been, obviously we could talk about it, but he's been going to each family member, each sibling, and trying to get in their good graces.
I'm here to
That's
serve.
That's it.
I'm here to serve. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, he was such a fucking wet noodle this episode. He was just like going to everybody because he knows. And I mean, what was that? Carl with the fucking line of the episode, calling him I don't
Fucking
even know
dagger.
the whole quote, the interloper
Yeah,
and
clumsy interloper.
clumsy interloper, and just so clearly Tom knows that he has nobody in his corner at this point and is just trying desperately to grasp at anybody that will back him. I don't know.
To me, I feel like the Shiv moment was real. I still think that there's part of him that wants things to work out with Shiv.
Right.
Whether or not it's because of the power that he gets from being with her. But, I really think he did love her on some level. But, I know that you think that they're going to end up back together, but I keep going back to my thought where, at least I've seen it in my life when a woman doesn't want to be with you, like she's made up her mind and that's it. And to me, I kind of feel like that's where Shiv's at this point.
I totally agree with you. I also harken back to what Ryan said about like a swerve, like, oh, it's the butler's baby or something like that, or it's Mondale's kid. But the thing is that isn't this show. It's never been this show. It's never going to be the show. I think Jesse Armstrong and those guys they have it down pat, kind of like how Vince Gilligan had Breaking Bad down pat. Like it just the writing and everything, like all these things are not subtle instances. Like everything is kind of tied together. Even when you see Kendall walking into Logan's house and you see him moping around, but he hears Hugo's conversation, right? He's well aware, and that little
Right.
part comes back at the end. That's what I love about shows, like bringing everything that you see kind of back into the forefront and pick up on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, like you mentioned with Hugo, the show does so many things where it's like a callback or something, you know, I know Kendall at one point says to, and not in the birthday episode, but he says to Roman or Shiv, like, you're not a serious person. And that ends up being the last thing that Logan says to them. So, I just love how they kind of always are reaching back and pulling, and, you see the symmetry from earlier seasons to now. To me, that's when the show is at its best. And, I know we keep saying that this isn't a show of swerves and like that chess move. I do think that there is one in store for us. I don't know what it is, but I don't think they're going to waste it on something like that. It's going to be a big move that I don't think anybody's expecting or anybody sees coming.
Yeah, you might be right. That's what moves papers these days, right? Something crazy, the internet goes crazy. So I agree. I think there's probably at least one big thing that's going to happen, but yeah, I don't know. Like the baby daddy question mark is not this show. It's that's a little too trashy for, I think, Succession.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So Robbie mentioned Kendall walking into Logan's apartment.
Yeah,
He sees Hugo. He's on the phone. He's clearly very upset with somebody. Somebody fucked him over big time. Kendall goes into the. Go ahead.
Am I crazy? Is it my eyes? But Hugo's head is way too big for his neck, right?
I think his head is normal sized, but his neck is just like every time I see him, I go pencil neck.
Yeah.
Pencil neck. And I'm very cautious as to saying this on the podcast or like saying it out loud, because I don't know if he's had like some kind of throat issue and he's had surgery, but it's like very small. He's got a toothpick neck. I can see much. Go ahead.
No, sorry. There was a like a backward shot this episode of him, and I was like, holy shit. He's like, yeah, he's got a number 2 pencil neck. I was like, holy crap, his neck is so thin that his head might just fucking break his neck because it's so big.
Yeah, it's super pronounced. And I saw somebody mention this on Reddit where Kendall is like, he always finds himself kind of standing over people in this episode. And I think they like, when he's on the stairs with Tom, he's like looking down at him slightly. He's always looking down at Shiv or Roman. And when when Hugo brings up his issue where there might be a little inside trader accusation against Hugo, Kendall standing over him, and it was like his neck was like so tiny in that situation.
Yeah. I don't bring it up like to make fun. I agree. Like we don't know, maybe something's up. He had an issue or something like that. But like, it's just every time I see it, it's like striking. I'm like, holy goodness.
Yeah. So yeah, like I mentioned, Kendall walks into the apartment. He meets Marsha for the first time since she's back from her little.
She's the fucking worst, dude.
She's back from her shopping spree in Milan.
Milan.
She mentions that her and Logan have been speaking intimately every single day, which I think we could probably all agree, probably not true. Then we move to.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I mean, I feel like almost this whole episode, except for maybe the kids, but them to a certain extent, is just vultures circling. Everyone is trying to position themselves to either get a payday or get some little piece of power or something. Like just about everyone, their goal today was something, to get something.
Yeah. And we see Marsha makes a big real estate move too. So she definitely found a way to cash in super quick. Any thoughts?
Do we even know like that's like, is the apartment hers automatically? We don't know that, or are we just assuming?
I mean, come on, they've been talking every night before he died. So
Oh, that
Intimately.
definitely deserves 60 mil.
yeah,
I think, unless it's something specific in the will, they never got divorced. So I'm sure that, by just the grace of them being married, it's hers at this point. So I don't
I
think
just
there's going to
find
be
it
anything fishy there.
I find it hard to believe a man of Logan's stature and wealth would not and health would not be a little more up to the minute on like his will or whatever. Now I understand, I'm sure when you're at that age and whatever, it's like a constant reminder of your mortality. So you may not want to, be constantly changing your paperwork. But like Marsha was out of the picture for how long? She was in Milan for months or something, I think. Like,
Running up that black card.
yeah, like you wouldn't even just one change. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely see that. I don't think his affairs were very up to date, throughout this episode. So it is interesting, but I think outside of them getting divorced, I don't think he saw a reason to update anything. I don't think he
Yeah.
thought he was going this soon, but I mean, I think that's just the hubris of anybody that's rich. They all didn't think he was going anywhere.
Maybe the chess move is like an actual up to date will somewhere.
In Greg's
right.
apartment.
Yeah, yeah, probably with the other paperwork.
In
Maybe
the
it's gonna
logistics
be his
folder.
brother, even though
Something
they
with
hated
Ewan.
each other. They were still brothers.
Yeah,
I don't
could
know.
be.
I think I'm
That would
speculating.
ruin the show for me.
Get out of here.
Do you any thoughts, Robbie, or do you want to head to the scene with the kids?
Yeah, I get it. I did. That's probably the only thing I didn't like was just her just showing up and just taking control. That annoyed me kind of, but I get the circumstances in the situation. I did love an old school spit handshake deal between
That was good.
her and the con man. 63 mil for that apartment. I love it. I don't know if this was the same scene, but the interaction between her and Willa, she was trying to kind of demean Willa, and then Willa came right back at her. Like, so I enjoyed that because I don't know. I thought Carrie was my most, but I absolutely hate Marsha. I can't stand her.
Hate her. Hate her
She
guts.
is the worst. I don't want her on screen ever again. She's the worst.
Yeah,
I hated
well,
her when she was married. She like in the picture like last season or whenever, because she did the same shit. Like she was just trying to assert her dominance over everyone that walked in the door. So annoying.
yeah, she definitely has the quite an ego on her. But yeah, I think you're right pairing that Colin scene in with her because it's kind of a little side scene that we get there. But I do love, hey, the con head's eating right this year.
Yeah.
Oh, he's back, baby. And let me tell you something right now. If nobody likes, taking a honeymoon in the swing states, then the con man ain't for you, baby.
The honeymoon states.
All right, so let's move to Kendall walks in and meets the siblings. They kind of go over, their how they're dealing with the grief. Roman says that he's pre-grieved, and Kendall doesn't agree with him. He says that you're lying. They have a good laugh about that. Shiv, you know, still kind of in denial, it seems, but it's hitting her hard. And Kendall lets us know that he's been up all night. And, as we saw in the opening scene, he's not taking it well. But the reviews are in. We get a whole bunch of newspapers. I thought, I love when they're playing the code switching game and they're doing he was a man of his times,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, racist.
Yeah.
But it feels like we're in, this is probably going to change by the end of the episode, but it feels like the kids are in such a good spot, and they're working together. They're there for each other. Ryan, what do you think about the way the kids have handled this so far?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think the dynamic changes a bit by the end of the episode, but I agree. They're working together better than probably they have the entire series. But I also want to say quickly before we move on from this is I think also Shiv, besides the grief, is dealing with the news she got earlier that morning. and everyone processes grief differently. So like, kind of just as an aside outside of the show, like, when something like that happens, everyone, I think, processes it differently and acts differently. And I hate when there's like, I don't know if it's societal pressure, but that you're supposed to act a certain way at like a wake or a funeral, or after news like this. And I think, um I don't know, like Roman might be pre-grieving, but this is just also his way of internalizing it and dealing with it and like making jokes. I mean, that's how he operates most of the time anyway. So yeah, I think they're all grieving in their own way, and we might see more of this as time goes on. Like maybe it'll hit Roman hard in like an episode or two or something. We don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's good how they've been working together. I'm curious to see how this dynamic's going to play out, especially after everything that happens with the three of them or the two of them in a little bit. Robbie, what about you?
Yeah, I thought it was a great scene with them. I think the three of them have great chemistry together, and you see it obviously on the small screen. But again, it's kind of short lived, especially when we get that little paper that Logan leaves behind. One more little fucking screw job, even when he's in the grave or embalmed somewhere. But I did like Benny said, the little back and forth they were going with. I did like Shiv's line. I'll read it. She said, "Dad sounds amazing. I would have liked to have met Dad. So that was awesome." And then the other one was a business genius, and he's like, simply, he never paid a penny in U.S. taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that. I mean, you kind of knew, I guess, that it's too good to be true. The three of them kind of working together for this entire season, and you knew they had to throw a little wrench in it. But I did love that scene with the three of them, and then I think that's the same scene where Greg came in. Correct
Yeah,
me
I
if
was
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
gonna transition there. Yeah.
Uh,
So
he-
we get the business end of this episode kicked off. And the grieving kind of ends for Logan here. Like we're now kind of into business mode. Cousin Greg walks in to ask how his beautiful boys are doing. Uh they all shit on him, and they kick him out because they're getting a call from Matson.
Yeah.
Uh
Get the fuck out.
yeah, get
my
right the
love,
fuck up, fuck right the fuck off.
my
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
He goes, my lovely guys.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So they get a call from Matson. They hit the fuck you button. Oh no, they let it ring out. They
They
let it
let
ring
it
out
ring out.
to put their heads together, and they call him back. They get his, I guess, number two or his assistant, and they're kind of trying to get Matson on the phone. Matson, am I saying it right? I feel like I've said it
Yeah.
too many times now. Uh Matson wants them to come out to meet them in Europe. They're on their company retreat, which cannot be interfered with, even
No.
though the kids are dealing with the loss of their father, the election coming up, and who's going to take on the company. Um, what do you guys think? Is this a power play by Matson to get them to come there and kind of stonewalling them, Robbie?
100%, of course. He obviously felt butthurt with the letting it go to voicemail ring, but I understood Ken. I think that was a good move by Kendall, right? Get their ducks in a row and make sure they're coherent and everybody's in agreement before they say anything to Matson. But I mean, as you known for the past two seasons now, seeing Matson on screen, that he's a loose cannon, and I feel like an Elon Musk type character. So I think it definitely was a power play on his end to get them to come out there. So I think that obviously it's gonna work if we see the trailer, if you saw the trailer for next week. So he definitely knows what he's doing. And yeah, 100% power play on him. Yeah, Yarmy Yaga esque.
Very
Number
nice.
68 from the face-off circle.
That's it.
Ryan?
Yeah, no, I agree with Robbie. It's definitely like a power play to just see if they'll come out. And I also, at this scene, I actually paused it to ask my wife like what she thought. I was like, well, we saw in the last episode that their stock tanked because Logan died. Now, it may rebound on Monday, depending. I mean, who knows? But I'm curious to see if because of this, Matson now devalues their company and says, like, I offer you like $1 billion less, or whatever the numbers
Yeah.
end up being. What do you think about that, Benny?
I think the kids handled this phone call as about as well as they could have. I think it's definitely a power play by Madsen for them to not, answer his phone call. So now I'm not going to talk to you.
Right.
But I think that they did a good job. I think that this deal, man, it's on very thin ice. We'll see what happens once there's new leadership there, but they keep dancing around this deal, and I think at some point someone's going to get cold feet or make a move to either kill the deal or completely try to devalue Waystar. So I'm interested to see what happens. I don't think this is going to be a smooth deal at all.
No, and I don't want to go off topic, but as you said, like each episode is one day, right? So Logan died in episode 3, so we got 7 more episodes left. That's a week basically. Do you guys think that these 3 can kill his company in a week after what Logan built?
Try to pull an Elon Musk and just completely tank it as quickly as possible. Yeah, I think nothing is off the table. It's going to be, we're going to be butting right up against the election. So it's going to be a wild end, I feel like. And it could be. It could be something where they just completely tank the company.
Could be. Or I was just thinking maybe they, tanked the deal because now that Kendall got a little taste of bossing people around, that maybe I'll keep the company.
Yep. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
So during this scene, I'm not sure where it lands in what we've discussed. We see some very awkward eye contact between Tom and Shiv. And Tom makes a decision. Instead of going to see the kids, he immediately goes to check on the old guard, the Graybeards. Right. And we get, a contender for a scene stealer of the episode when they meet in the China room and discuss who they think should take over. So instead of maybe explaining the scene, do we have maybe a favorite line from this conversation between Jerry, Carl, Frank, Carolina, and Tom? Robbie, you have a favorite?
It has to be. It has to be Carl's evisceration of Tom.
Has to be.
He just eats him alive in like 3 to 4 sentences, and it's just deadpan so well by Carl. I've got to get the actor, but it's a scene stealer, man. I don't think you can go anywhere else but that line because it completely eats Tom alive. And I think after that, hearing that, he probably knew that already, but I think after that now you see him going to each kid and trying to weasel his way back in. But little does he know he has a little card to come back in.
That's right. Yeah. And I actually have the quote here. Wait, hold on. The negative case would go, you're a clumsy interloper and no one trusts you. Now, that's not part of the quote. That's they're talking. The only guy pulling for you is dead. And now you're just married to the ex-boss's daughter and she doesn't even like you. And you are fair and squarely fucked.
Yeah. And you see that hits Tom like a ton of bricks.
Ton of bricks.
He knows that he's figured out, and he's spot on there.
You talk about your bees getting blown off. His bees got blown to the fucking moon and they're gone.
Yeah, somebody on East 72nd Street found those in Central Park. To me, my favorite was like a little line, but it was when Jerry and Carl were going back and forth, and they're talking about Carl's golden parachute and who's going to take over as CEO. And Carl just goes, "Now don't push me out that plane that quick, Jerry." So, I just love we get to see these guys. They've been not held down by Logan, but they very much know their role in the company when Logan is around to be kind of yes men and just go with whatever the boss wants. And these guys are in this position for a reason, all of them, and they've all were probably killers in their day. And we get that alluded to by Jerry with Carl. how he was a legend in the 90s. So it's cool to see all these, we call them B players, but we get to see their corporate prowess in full
Yeah.
effect here.
Yeah, the cat's away, so all the mice are definitely playing. Like I think we're gonna see well now, you know what? I don't know. They may go back to their fucking yes, sire, like bullshit to Kendall and Roman because they're not the CEO. So
Yeah.
maybe maybe it would have been nice to get Carl as CEO because he would have had some great lines.
Yeah, it
He
would have
is
been great.
he is the CFO. I mean, I thought Romy Rome was on a heater, but man, Carl this week with the one liners, last week with the we're gonna have a little stiffener and Chuckles the clown. I mean, he's been providing some comic relief in the past few episodes and this entire series. So, and he has a great line later on as well when he's talking to Frank. So I won't discuss that, but Carl's the best.
It's going to be a very tight race for MVP of the season when it comes down to the end. I don't know who's going to take it down, but Carl's a dark horse contender. Roman, my boy Kendall's making some power moves, and then the con heads are always going to have something to say when
Yeah.
it comes to the MVP talk.
Oh, the con heads are out in full force now.
It's even gonna be tight for serious person of the episode later.
It really is. But you know what? It's going to be good because we're all probably going to get a very good pick here
I
at
think
the
you're
end.
right. Yeah, no bad picks later.
Yeah. So now we move on to, and interject if I'm forgetting anything, but we're moving on to the second half of the episode and the piece of paper.
Yep.
Again, a great B player scene between Carl and Frank, and then when Jerry comes in, we don't get to see what's on the paper yet, but they make mention of something that as kind of I'm still questioning is they talk about the little princess, which I don't know where that's going to play into. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah, I didn't know if they were talking about maybe Shiv or somebody else, but yeah, I caught that, but I didn't fully understand what they were talking about.
Yeah, people were speculating Carrie. But
Oh
they
yeah,
really,
that's what I was maybe thinking.
but
Yeah.
they don't really make reference to it for the rest of the episode. So I'm interested to see if that ends up coming back up. But we get this great conversation between Carl and Frank about maybe it just so happens to slip out of your hand into a toilet. I'm speaking comically at this point. So again, we see these guys have a great conversation. Jerry comes in, they're all kind of questioning the legality of this piece of paper. But do you guys think, since they're having this conversation, that maybe it does have a little bit more weight behind it than they're trying to let on? Because if it really didn't have that much weight, why are they all kind of wringing their hands over it? Robbie?
I think it did have to have a lot of weight, because, like you said, if they're trying to get rid of it, you know, I think that it holds a ton of weight. The way it kind of was talked about in the scene and the entire episode, I do believe it held a lot of weight. Um, I just don't understand. I don't know. I was just kind of thrown off by that, just a random piece of paper just laying around in a safe and nothing to come about it. I thought it was a little bit bigger when Frank got pulled away and what they were talking about. But yeah, it seems like everybody was a little hesitant and worried about the paper. So yeah, I think it was 100% held a lot of weight, especially was the basically the 40 minutes of the episode devoted to it.
Yep. Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know the legalities of a note from the recently deceased. They seem to be like, so I feel like they were playing it down, but they were also playing it down for the audience, not us as the audience, but like the kids and whoever else, because they don't want it to be important because it's naming Kendall, although his name might have been crossed out. I don't know. Um, so I get, because of their reactions, I feel like it must be important, or it must be somewhat enforceable. But maybe they'll get into that more next episode, or over the next couple episodes. But I guess it's definitely something.
Yeah, to me, you know, I think maybe it's not enforceable, but I think the thing that you know, they kind of loosely alluded to a few times in this episode is the appearance to the public that
Right.
this isn't some type of, it's not chaos there. And if the kids truly believe that this is something, and one of them ends up becoming, not the kids, excuse me, I shouldn't use pronouns, but one of Jerry, Carl, or Frank becomes CEO, the kids can go public and say, hey, my father has a piece of paper here with Kendall's name on it. So I think a lot of it is them kind of playing it down, or excuse me, they're trying not to make it a big deal because they know if it gets public, it could have ramifications.
Right. Like it's not, again, legally enforceable. It's like if I just wrote a note now and said, in the event of my death, give all my stuff to Robbie and Benny instead of like my wife and kid, like there might be some people that would, and that's a different situation, but there would be people like, oh, well, this is what he wanted, so we should like follow his last wishes, even though it's not like my wife could be like, no, fuck you guys, it's mine. And
Yeah.
legally, you guys couldn't do anything, but there would be groups of people. And I think you're right. It's like the public perception of that could be, whether it's legal or not. That's, I think, what they're playing on.
Yeah. So I think in between the kids being shown this piece of paper, we get our first taste of Tom trying to weasel his way in with first Kendall and then Roman and then Shiv question mark. What did you guys think about, Tom, I'm here to serve, Wom Gams, trying to make some moves here, Ryan?
Just like I said before, fucking everybody, not just Tom, but Greg and all the other people that were in there were just desperately wanting. And I think Tom was doing it more for power or to stay relevant, more so than money. But everyone was looking for something. Like that's why everyone was there, except for the kids. I mean, technically the kids were there because they wanted, I don't know, to take over the company, protect their father's legacy, etc. But that's why everyone was there. And Tom just, I didn't like it. His demeanor was just like so pathetic and sad. And I don't it was, I don't know. It was hard to watch him.
Yeah.
I know he's not like the most confidence not the word I want, but like he's not the most like confident person where he's just like telling people what to do and whatever. He's always was kind of like a little bit like, oh, okay, yeah, we can do that type of thing. But he was such a like just a little weasel this episode. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here to serve. Like, who says that shit? Get out of here.
Robbie, not the same question to you, but who do you think, if anyone, would have taken in Tom? Do you think any of the three kids see any value in Tom?
Lip balm Tom.
Yeah, tightrope Tommy.
That was Roman saying that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
lip balm
good.
Tom Wom.
Lip balm Tom Wom.
I feel like I don't remember. Tell me if I'm wrong, but like, yeah, Roman immediately was just like, "Fuck off, Tom." Kendall kind of entertained it like a little bit, like maybe more just to be polite or something. And Shiv was also kind of like, "Fuck off," but their relationship's different.
Yeah.
Was Kendall kind of like somewhat amenable to him, or
Well,
am I remembering it wrong?
Kendall said, "I like you, Tom," and then good luck, and that was really their interaction.
That's right. So that was like, but that was like a nice fuck off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so to Benny's question, I think it would be Kendall. I really do. I don't think it would be Roman, or I mean Shiv can't stand him at the moment. But I think it would be Kendall. I think there is some history there. Obviously, the interaction they had in season 3 at the end of the season, with Kendall trying to get Tom on his side, obviously for whatever reasons. But I think Kendall would be the character that would takes Tom on his side. I believe that he knows, obviously, what Tom did, is similar to what Kendall did to his dad, right? Kendall betrayed his dad a bunch of times, and now he's sitting as CEO. So I think that Kendall would definitely take Tom. I think Roman thinks Tom's a sleazeball. I don't think he would want him on his side. And like I said with Shiv, I mean, who knows with her? But Benny, what do you think?
I think you're right. I think when it comes to the kids, Shiv definitely doesn't have the experience. Roman is very good about thinking of moves, like big moves as far as the corporation goes. And I think Kendall values Tom, the corporate employee. And I think that, maybe he's not going to promote Tom right away, but I think he sees the value in keeping Tom around.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think like he's like Logan. Remember, like what does Logan say to him in the past episode in 2, I think? If you're here, you're here or something.
If I
If we're
think
good,
if we're good, you're good.
if we're
Yeah,
good,
like
yeah, if we're good, we're good.
Yeah.
Kendall can see people's usefulness if they're useful to him, but he just doesn't say it in as cool a way as Logan does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think you're
think
right, Benny. Go ahead. Sorry.
I want to tie back in, Kendall's final words to Tom there is, I like Robbie said, I like you. Good luck. Um, Makes me think of, when Hugo tells him the news about the insider trading and he asks him about, what are the phone records going to say? And Hugo says, I can't recall. And Kendall just pats him on the shoulder and he's like, all right, Hugo. And he just walks away. So they bring the kids upstairs and they show the piece of paper and the bomb is dropped that, at some point in the last 4 years, this document has been created naming Kendall as CEO. There have been addendums in pencil. One of them is a underline or a striking out of Kendall's name. The kids all have different reactions. Obviously, Kendall is, taken aback, but you could tell that he's in some way happy about this. Roman and Shiv are both kind of in denial that this has happened. Roman brings up the fact that he's tried to put him in jail 12 times since this piece of paper was created. Shiv and Kendall have a back and forth where, whether or not it's stricken out or not. And Kendall says, well, it certainly as fuck doesn't say Shiv, which was, a pretty
Gold.
pretty big right hook there.
Yeah.
And they grapple with, what they're going to do about this piece of paper and what it means. What do you guys think? I know we see a more up close picture of the name and the line in question later on the episode, but Kendall's name is a line through it or underneath it. Robbie, go ahead.
Well, I first think that obviously this is where you see the first signs of friction of the entente, the triple entente between these siblings. So I thought that was great. It's short lived their peace treaty between the three of them. But speaking on experience, I've never written something down and then underlined it in pen. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to strike through a name. So I think that this is a strike through on Kendall's name, a bad strike through. Maybe he had a mini stroke while he was doing it, but I think that it was definitely maybe a strike through on Kendall's name to kind of, not really put him in charge as CEO as he once wanted to do in the original document. So I do think it was a strike through. I don't think it was underlined based on experience by yours truly. I've never underlined something on paper. I've always struck it through if I didn't want to have it be there. So yeah, I do think it was struck through. Brian, who's striking through his cell phone right now.
I was seeing if I could try and
Pull it
find
up.
like the picture, and your point I think kind of decimated what I was thinking in my head, because what I was going to say is if you want to strike something out and you do a line and you don't completely get it, wouldn't you do another line or 2 lines to make sure that it was struck out? And so that was gonna say like, well, maybe he just underlined it a little sloppily. His health was failing. Maybe he couldn't write as well. But I think you're right too. Like, who would underline something like that? Like, what Kendall did something good, so he's like, let me get my piece of paper out and really emphasize this. Like, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it could go either way. But I did find um a couple of things that were, I guess, written on the the piece of paper besides Kendall and Greg question mark,
Yeah.
journalism school question mark, RE antiquities, which they did mention quickly, and then there was something else that's sort of not legible, like NRPI or something like that. So this is the Reddit detectives that found this. I don't know, Benny, what do you think about the underline cross out?
Um, Dramaturgically, I think it made sense that that the line was ambiguous. No, I'm Team Kendall, so I want it to be an underline. I think that you know again, I'll be the third person to say it. Who is pulling something out just to underline it? What has what has Kendall done with Logan in the last 18 months that would have made him emphatically emphasize Kendall is the one who's taking over. But to me, this is where my brain goes, is they made a point to bring up the fact that Logan was doing Sudoku, and
Yeah,
he would need to be able to write very precisely in those squares. So
I was thinking that.
it's not like you could make the argument that he can't see what he's doing, or his motor skills aren't there. So that's kind of my cope right there, that it was an underline. But it's hard to, I can come up with way more reasons why it would have been a strike through than an underline. So my brain is telling me strike through, but my heart is telling me underline.
I want to ask a question now with, you saw that we saw the friction going. There's a select few people who do know that Kendall has killed a person.
True.
Now, he did tell his siblings, uh, Shiv and Roman, in the season 3 finale. Now, if we get to a point where this gets contentious or Kendall starts doing some shady shit, are any of the people who know what Kendall did, will they, as the kids say, snitch on Kendall? Benny, what do you think?
I think that is a big, big card to play. And outside of some major fuck over by Kendall, which we might be heading that way, I don't think that any of them would stoop that low. But I don't think we've, completely dealt with that incident.
Yeah. Colin knows too.
That's true. I
And
didn't even think about that.
Yeah, with his jeans on.
Yeah. And his fucking $1 million watch.
And his kid that Roman didn't even see. What do you think, Robbie? Is it going to come back into play?
I like I said before, like knowing this show, it has to, right? They can't just leave that big of a I'm trying to think of the word.
Matzo ball.
Yeah, a big matzo ball soup. They really can't just leave that thing just hanging with the series ending. It has to come back and fucking bite him in the ass. It just has to. And if it doesn't, I won't be upset, but I would have expected it to come up. I don't know, maybe Shiv fucking tells Tom, maybe Tom does it. I don't know, but I think it
That'd be
has to
wild.
but I think it has to come back to haunt him. That's the only way I see him not becoming CEO of the company.
But
Yeah,
he also, oh, go ahead, Benny.
I think that the watching the first season and in the beginning of the second season, I thought the point of that was, well, they're rich, they can just get out of it. You could see even a person's life, if it's not important enough, they can pay their way out of it or find a way out of it. But the way everything is heading, the fact that they brought it back and it was such a big weight on Kendall in season 3, then yeah, you're right. You're right. I think at some point it's got to play a role. What were you gonna say, Ryan?
No, I was just gonna say, like, yeah, he killed a guy, but it wasn't like directly his fault. It was circumstantial. I mean, the other guy grabbed the wheel. Like,
Yeah,
he's responsible, but he's not like responsible. I don't know. I'm not
I
saying that like he wasn't wrong for what he did, and it also could hurt him, but I think it's more the worst part about this is his own guilt over it for himself. Like, he didn't turn into the fucking lake.
yeah, but now he's the cover up was worse than the crime.
Oh
The
yeah,
fact
100%.
the fact that either way, none of it can be proved. You can't prove that Kendall was there at this point,
Yeah, no,
and you even if they could, you can't prove that the kid grabbed the steering wheel. So it's
no.
very gray. But even just that rumor being out there might be the thing that tanks the company. Something happens, they lose control. Maybe that's the big twist we were talking about earlier.
I don't know. Some people just how many like celebrities and politicians have like been in suspicious car accidents and like
Nothing
nothing fucking
happens.
happens.
What's her name? Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah.
Ted
Matthew
Kennedy.
Broderick, Kennedy. Yeah.
Ted Kennedy.
Oh boy, that was a very Ted Kennedy-esque thing that happened too in the show.
That really was.
Yeah.
So before we kind of head towards the landing of the plane of this episode, with a couple of really big scenes, we get two kind of back-to-back Frank moments that I think were fantastic. One, like you mentioned, on the paper, there's Greg with a question mark,
Yeah.
and Greg shoots a shot and
Ooh.
says, I think maybe it could mean, if Kendall is taking over, that I would be his number 2. And Frank, gives the belly laugh of the cinch,
Yeah.
and basically he tells Greg, nice try, buddy.
Yeah.
And then everybody leaves because there's going to be some words said. And we have this scene with Frank and Kendall. And again, another piece of symmetry here when Logan tells Shiv she's going to take over the company. She says, is this real? And Logan goes on to tell her, yes, it's real. We get, in this instance, Kendall asking Frank, is this real? And they have this conversation about, did he want me to take over the company? He didn't love me. He made me hate him, and then he died. And Frank, again, I mentioned it last week that we had that Kendall Frank relationship in season 1 where, he was a father figure to him. And I think it was nice to see that play out again this episode. You could start with a comment about, Greg being a dumbass, or you can continue where we left off here with the Kendall Frank relationship. Ryan, what did you think of this little kind of mini scene here?
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious what's gonna happen with Greg because he offers nothing in like the business sense. He's the true interloper, clumsy interloper.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what happens with him. Like, did they, because he's family, they just give him some fucking exec job somewhere at the amusement park or some shit and just let him go? Does he still have some papers?
I think so.
Well, I think he has, yeah, he still has a couple things. Whether that's important or not at this point, who knows? But yeah, Greg is just a fucking clown. And yeah, I love the scene with Frank too. Like, trying to, I was thinking watching that, like, it was Kendall's like affirmed with that, but then at the same time in like the next scene or a scene later, he's looking at the picture. So he's still in his own head. He's like, no, he didn't. I don't care what Frank says. He didn't love me, but it's, still nice to hear.
Yeah. Robbie?
I always thought that there would be a swerve with cousin Greg, but as this season is going along and as like they're writing for him, I just think that he's just going nowhere. Like he's just
I
a
agree.
fuck up. Yeah, he's just a fuck up, and that's what's gonna happen. Like I'm done with Greg's gonna take over the company and Greg's playing the long game. I'm done with that. I just think he's a fuck up. a usual stooge like any other corporate stooge in America and across the globe. But even like last week, I just love these Frank and Kendall scenes, man. I think just the both of them, like I use the word again, chemistry, but the both of them have such great chemistry together that it's just great to watch. I love how he confronted him about comforted him, about the airline doctors and talking to the pilot and things like that. And I just, loved how, Kendall went to him for advice this week as everybody left. I just think that he truly sees Frank as his father figure. And Frank, since season one, has always offered wisdom and advice to Kendall. And I think it's great. And I actually, this is probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode because I just love Frank as an actor and Kendall as an actor as well.
And Frank offered his expertise, help, whatever to Roman too, but Roman took it as an insult or whatever and told him to fuck off. So maybe, Frank's probably, like we said before, a killer to some extent or kind of an asshole. You don't get this high being nice to everybody, but he probably is just overall a pretty decent guy.
Yeah, and I think too, we see how much he cares for Kendall because when his name comes up and Kendall's kind of pushing all in on this, he tells him, Kendall, you're doing good. Are you really sure you want to be back in this? You know, I just, like you said, Frank's probably not like this with anybody, obviously, because he's Kendall's godfather. He's going to be there for him, but it's just such, one of the few kind of good relationships in the show, where Frank doesn't want anything from Kendall. He just wants him to be happy, to be healthy, and to be his best, version of himself.
Now, Benny, I don't know if you're going to touch on this, but I don't like to talk about myself in the third person, but as the resident mock turtleneck expert on this program, I don't know if we're going to talk about Stewie.
Oh, we're talking about Stewie.
Okay. All right. Forget. Go ahead.
So as Kendall leaves, as they break up this little conversation here, before we get some words about Logan, we get an appearance by one of the handsomest men in the business, Stewie. Kendall goes to Stewie for, some advice and some help. And you know what? I'm not even going to try to sum it up. I'm going to hand it over to our resident mock turtleneck and beautiful beard, handsome man expert, Robbie. Tell us what you thought about this scene.
Well, thank you. Even though I can't grow a beard and you got the best beard in the biz, that's beautiful words coming from you. So first off, I'm a straight man. Okay, 100%. I think so. But nothing gets this Pishkadel moving as seeing Stewie in the mock with the fucking chiseled beard, jawline looking impeccable, suit game top notch. I love seeing Stewie. Like you said, like I always say, I love his voice. I think he's a great actor. But I know Stewie's scum, right? I know Stewie's a corporate scum as well, but I know him and Kendall have a little, weird relationship. But I just think it was another great scene between them two. Like, again, chemistry between them two is fantastic. And I love their relationship, even though they're fucking each other over in various parts of each season. They always come back to each other. And I think that Stewie is whatever you consider a friend in the corporate world, right? Nobody can really be trusted. But I think Stewie generally does care about Kendall and vice versa. I think that I forgot what Stewie did. I don't know, but I just thought it was a great scene of Stewie trying to help Kendall out and Kendall just throwing a little lifeline out there for just doing something after he just lost his dad.
I think one of the things you're thinking of here is Stewie breaks the ice with Kendall and makes that joke about, how he died. He says he's probably laughing at your ideas for Pierce. And, this is the first person we see Kendall kind of break down in front of too. So like you mentioned, there is some type of bond with them. Is it, best friends till we die? No, but there's comfort between the two of them. And there is some level of trust where Kendall can kind of let that guard down when he's around Stewie and, not only ask him for help, but show a little emotion. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Before I get into that. Robbie, did you ever wear that green turtleneck?
Not yet. If the weather's nice on Saturday, it might come out.
Oh, by nice you mean a little nippy, a little cool?
A little cool, and
Oh
even
my
like if I can get a
goodness.
nice little sport coat going, who knows? Who the
Oh,
fuck
watch,
knows?
I'm
watch
gonna
out.
have to I'm gonna have to bring like a jacket to tie around my waist just in case you are wearing it.
I'm gonna have to go buy another outfit now.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so no, I mean, because Kendall says to Stewie, like basically Stewie's like, what's in it for me? And Kendall's like, do me a solid, man. And clearly he doesn't react really, but clearly he does if it goes through that Kendall's the CEO. But I think Robbie, like you said, he is scum. He may think that he can manipulate Kendall into doing what he wants. So maybe he sees Kendall and or Roman as CEOs as a benefit to himself. Whereas like Carl or Frank or whoever, Jerry, he doesn't have as much sway with. So maybe it's better off that it's Kendall.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at it like from that point of view. I don't know.
Oh, and I
yeah,
I think so too. I didn't think of it like that, but I've I remember what I was gonna say too. He's the second person that tells Kendall, like, hey man, like you said, Benny, with Frank, like, you sure about this? Like, you're making moves or whatnot as well. And yeah, so I think everybody also knows that the addict might come back in Kendall. If such
yeah.
a
Needs a little energy
yeah, a little big role can make him, what's the word when you go back on your drug habit?
off the
Oh no.
wagon.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So maybe that as well. Who really knows? And shout out to Sandy, always smiling.
I think he winked at me.
Yeah, that was so funny. And I think later on, doesn't when Shiv falls, she's like, "Stop fucking smiling."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I lost what I was going to say here, but
it's okay.
he's Kendall asks Stewie, to back him, and we get what we're talking about, where he asks him if he's okay, and Kendall has one of the, I think, lines of the episode where he says, I'm dual track, my mind's on a dual track, and I'm paraphrasing
Oh,
here. He says, I'm dead, but I'm alive. So, we see Kendall's all in, and he's
fucking
gonna,
corporate speak bullshit.
yeah, he's gonna do his best to push down, the grieving and move forward here. Um, so we move on to our man, Stephen Root, eulogizing
You
Logan Roy.
Googleizing?
You Googleizing. And I wish I could confirm this fact that I'm about to give, but I did not watch the first two episodes of Barry last night. Stephen Root might have been on 3 straight episodes of HBO TV last night, because Barry came back with episodes 1 and 2.
Ah,
So if Robbie, did you watch?
No, I'm watching after this actually.
Yeah. So Stephen Root might have shown up on 3 straight episodes of TV last night. So good for him. We all love him here on the show.
Yes.
He gives about as big of a bullshit speech as you could possibly give. And Connor takes offense to it. He says history is being written right now, and he's being painted as a neocon instead of I forget the word that he uses, but something libertarian. Any
oh yeah, he's
thoughts?
like he's not a neocon. He's a like capital something
Yeah.
fucking stupid.
Any thoughts on this, or do we want to move along to the conversation right after with the kids?
Just really quick, like it's besides people in this room looking for with their hands out, looking for money or looking for power or looking for relevance. People are also, I think, like Stephen Root, I don't know his character's name, are like using this death for their own means, whatever that may be. And he doesn't show up, but they do say that the presidential nominee wanted to come by.
Yeah.
So like this is a political spectacle, and spectacle I use lightly, but spectacle as well. So like he's just like he doesn't. I mean, we're basing this on what we see in the show, but I don't think Stephen Root and Logan were like best buds. Like they were associates, right?
No, it was most likely the relationship based on power.
Yeah.
They worked hand in hand together, with the Republican Party.
Right. So yeah, I think he was just using this as, I don't know, a way to exert his own influence in some way.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Robbie?
No, I don't have many thoughts. But Jesse Armstrong did after the episode was over talked about like this specific scene, like getting inspiration from actual real life events where a powerful figure like this would die, and somebody like Stephen Root would come in and just like
Take
weasel his way
over.
in and take over. So yeah,
Yeah.
Make a little speech to
Yep.
kind of up their Q
yeah.
rating, as the kids say.
Hmm.
Um,
What
so
does
we
Q
move
rating mean? Is that like
Q.
QAnon rating?
No, Q rating is like I'm using it wrong, but it's like a celebrity will have a Q rating. It's basically like a favorability rating in the public of like what the public thinks of them. If they have a high Q rating, the public likes them. If it's low, it's not so great. But this is not unofficial intelligence, so we won't expound on that any further.
Q
um,
score.
yeah,
It's the measurement of familiarity and appeal of a brand, celebrity, company, or entertainment product.
yeah. So Stephen Root's using this as kind of like a look at me
What do you
type
think our
situation.
Q score is?
-7. So yeah, we move on to the conversation between the kids where Kendall wants to know exactly what they're going to do. He's being ignored. He yells at the siblings and says, "We need to figure this out," ingraciously. And when my man comes into power, he is going to punish these boys for kicking him out of the room. Connor gets kicked out, and the gracious host of his new home says, "Mi casa es su casa," and leaves them to the decision making process.
Closes those gorgeous French doors. Oh my God.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I hope that's not one of the walls that comes down when Willa makes her renovations.
Better not be.
Yeah, like these fucks. And I remember thinking when that was happening, that scene, and everyone's kind of like gawking at him. It's like, just look at, again, these vultures just picking at the carcass,
Yeah,
just like, this is mine already. Like,
yeah,
fucking have some goddamn decorum and understand, act like you've been there before. All right.
yeah. The body's not even cold.
For real.
Um, so eventually, after some back and forth here, it's decided that Kendall and Roman are going to be the ones that they put forward to the board as far as taking over the company. Kendall, because his name's on the paper, and I think was in a COO role, if not, if he still had that title. And Roman is still one of the COOs. So they decide they're going to step up. Shiv doesn't have the experience. It doesn't look clean if it's the three of them. A little bit of nepotism going on there, so they don't want to do it. Shiv doesn't take the news so well, and it kind of sends her on a downward spiral the rest of the episode. Robbie, what'd you think about this scene?
Oh man, tough episode for Shiv, but I think when you reach your lowest point in life, it's when you know good things I think start happening and you rise to the top. I
Right.
think Shiv is about to come out on top. I don't know whether it's with the election or something within the business company, but I think things are looking up for Shivy Honey. Um, but again, I thought it was a great scene. It sounds stupid, but it pains me to see them pitting each other like against each other, or the interfightings, and reverting back to season two type shit and season one type shit. I did like when they all came together because I thought that it was some of the best moments in the show. But you know, seeing Kendall, going back to his usual Kendall BS, it just was a sounds stupid, but it was a hurtful scene to watch because they all should have been sticking together. I understand the optics and three of them as co-CEOs doesn't look good, but I don't know. I complain about Shiv a lot, but I don't like the way they did Shiv dirty in the scene.
Ryan?
Yeah, agree. I mean, it it's not, what they say is not untrue. Like, she doesn't have the experience that they do. She didn't have the title. Um, but I agree. It was hurtful to see um, three siblings. I mean, I feel it's funny saying this because Connor's in the other room, but like these three siblings like kind of cut another one out. Um, but I don't think they're wrong. I think that it either needed to be one of them or both of them, and that's it. Like it wouldn't have in a million years been Shiv by herself. And if it was like Roman and Shiv, I think that would look weird. And all three looks weird. But those two, it kind of does make sense. They were both COOs. They both have experience. It's sad to say, but people are still misogynistic in this world. So, you know, having the men kind of run the show is maybe more palatable to some people, especially maybe on that side of the aisle. I don't know. But yeah, it does suck because I don't know. I feel like I see on the internet like a lot of people don't like Shiv, and I don't really get that. I like I mean I like her as much as you can like a shitty person.
So here we go.
Here we
Because
go.
I am
Benny's got some shit.
Oh my god, hold on, this
I
fucking strap in.
I am, I've mentioned it previously. I am very anti-Shiv. I think that she's a smart person. I think she has her lane in politics. And, I mean, it could be said about all three of them where they have this birthright to this company, and none of
Right.
them have really done the work to be in the role that they aspire to be in. But I think Shiv constantly gets ahead of her skis. And, she has such a big ego. Again, they all have big egos. It's not, but she lets that get in the way where, Roman kind of knows his limitations on some way. Kendall, I mean, you can see it in this scene. He knows he needs to make this concession to bring Roman in,
Right.
and whether or not, he's going to honor that, he realizes that he can't do this alone, or it's not going to work if he does it by himself. Whereas Shiv just always she lets her ego get in the way, and it causes her more pain than she needs. Whether it's her relationship with Tom, where, she kind of put the airs on about herself and shit on Tom all the time and is surprised when that blows up in her face. She did it with Gil, and she
Right.
ultimately screwed that relationship over. Um, and anytime she's been involved in the company, she tries to start making decisions and tries to do things that are kind of out of her range. And I think that this is what we see here. Like can't accept that, she doesn't have the experience. She wants to be named the CEO, and it's not her time. And it's not, she doesn't have the experience for this.
Right. Yeah, agree. What did she say? I did an audit or something.
Yeah. Oh, and that's when Kendall gets in his second haymaker towards Shiv, and
Yeah.
he says, "Yeah, that was daddy make work."
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
between your name's not on that fucking piece of paper and, the daddy make work comment, Aya mentioned she was like super pissed at Kendall after the episode. She,
that was pretty. I mean, those both are pretty mean and
yeah,
hurtful. Like maybe she might not have been so upset if like he wasn't being such a prick.
yeah. Well, that's what Aya said. She was like, he's unnecessarily being like super rude to her. But I think I don't want to blame, I feel like I'm going to come off as blaming the victim in this situation, but like she's constantly pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and then she gets hit back, and then she doesn't know what to do, like she did with
Right.
Tom. Tom, when Tom came back in episode 1, or she came back to the apartment and she started going after Tom, and Tom hits her back with, well, if you want to go over all the things that hurt in this relationship, we can do that. So in a way, she doesn't almost know when to stop. Was it rude of Kendall? Yeah, absolutely. Though, they both have some blame there.
Yeah. No, I think all three of them are similar in that, and I think I've said it before, like they've rarely been told no or been pushed back on by most of society their whole entire lives because they grew up in luxury and power. And like this type of company isn't just like, oh yeah, like their father was a millionaire. They grew up without, wanting anything. This is like American royalty type shit. Like they grew up like more powerful than even the rich people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they're all kind of like that. When people go back at them, they're like, can't take it. That's my read.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Robbie?
No, I mean, like you always fucking do. You always eloquently speak and then make me want to take back what I said. But I think you made a great point about her ego because they all act like spoiled brats.
Yeah.
I think that you know she definitely like a spoiled brat this episode, but understandably so. But you're right. Their egos. I think everybody's ego gets in the way, right? And everybody thinks that they're capable of things that maybe they aren't capable of. So I think the ego definitely gets in the way. But I think you're right. Sometimes I do feel bad for her, but she does have this bloated ego that and can't she can dish it, man, but she cannot fucking take it.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of people not being able to take things, I don't know where this landed in the whole chronology of it, but it seems like a good time to talk about Carrie's little
Oh yeah.
uh scene here where she shows up completely devastated. Um, she gets handed her stuff by Marsha. She's not allowed to go upstairs, and we find out as she's babbling to Roman that Logan was planning to marry her. That he was going to make note of it. He was going to, she wants Roman to go find anything that would have mentioned that. Um, Realistically, if that was the case, no matter what he had written down, I don't think it's going to mean anything for her. But I think that's it. I think just Carrie is done. Or do you guys think that we have not seen the last of Carrie? Ryan?
Well, what I was gonna say is maybe in his will, Logan left her an anchor person job because she definitely deserves it.
Yes.
Crazy
Um,
arms, Carrie.
Crazy arms. I don't think this is the last we've seen of her, but I wouldn't be shocked if it is. Like, is Roman really gonna like try and like look out or help her out? I don't know. Maybe I feel like the only way Logan would do that is if he thinks she can help him with something. Because she clearly probably has some inside information that other people aren't privy to. Um, so I don't know, maybe he will. One thing I wanted to ask, did it seem like the bag they put all her stuff in was just way too small as like a fuck you? Or or did I
It
just
would
miss see that bag?
it was definitely not ludicrously capacious. I mean,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Her
But
flats
man,
weren't in that for the subway.
no, there was no bank job that bag was a part of. Um, Robbie, what did you think about Carrie and the size of her bag?
Well, as me being a big bag expert, I thought it was too small for our own good, but um no joke, and again, I'm keep on, saying this over and over again, but the reason why I love this show is that it's written so beautifully and acted so beautifully that it makes you hate these people. But in this moment, man, I felt so bad for Carrie, even though she threatened Greg and all the bullshit she did prior to this. Like I felt really, really bad what happened in this scene. And it was kind of tough to watch. It was
Yeah.
really, I don't want to use the word devastating, but it was extremely, tough to watch and extremely hurtful the way she was treated, even though she's a piece of shit. But yeah, I felt really bad for her, man, and Roman coming to her aid, and Roman is what he is, but he's the only one in that group effect that has an actual heart and was helping her. And even at the end, he's like, Marsha, was that really necessary?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
he didn't like that.
yeah, so I that's why I like Roman. He's got a little heart in that weird fucking sexual type Sigmund Freud body of his. So yeah, it was a difficult scene to watch, but I do think that we will see Carrie down the road in some sort of
Some
role.
capacity.
Yeah.
Do you think am I remembering this correctly? Wasn't Greg there like saying to
Oh
Marsha
man.
like yeah, can you believe that?
Oh,
Here
here,
come the
Like
here
a
come the
fucking hype
waterworks.
man.
oh, here come the waterworks. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
Marsha, you shouldn't watch this.
I
I
fucking
fucking
I
hate
think
Greg.
I'm out on Greg. I fucking hate Greg now. I
Yeah, I
I used to
mean,
like him because as like comic relief. I think he's just a fucking weasel now.
Yeah, I'm,
yeah,
I'm with you.
he's trying so hard to ingratiate himself with anybody. Like he's doing it clumsily as Tom's trying to do it sneakily, but they're both like grasping at anything that they could possibly grab at, to get involved with the family a little bit closer. But I
Imagine
want
trying to get to more relevance by going on Marsha.
I know it's because he has no idea what he's doing.
No, he is. Robbie said it before, and I've said it in other episodes. Yeah, there's no twist here. He's just a fucking idiot.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you guys, what did you make of Roman coming to Kerry's aid there and the way that he kind of, seemed like he had a heart or he felt bad in that moment? Do you think that was out of character for him? Were you surprised by that? Any thoughts that you guys had on that, Robbie?
I don't think it was out of character because I don't use the word evolved because she's still a fucking weirdo. But I feel like the way he's evolved, like an emotionally, I think that it was genuine in his feelings towards her. Because even in the next episode, or at the end of the episode, when they want to kind of quote unquote embalm Lennon type things or kind of, slander their dad in the press, he's like, no, he's like, no way. And he tells him to kind of go fuck off and never come to him again, which like that. So I think for him, I think he is the resident, not even mature person, but I think he shows the most emotion towards people and really does feel bad for people. And I think that in that moment, he genuinely felt bad for Carrie and wanted to make sure she was all right.
Yeah, I felt like his demeanor and like voice cadence changed when he was speaking to her. Like it almost was like a conscious effort by maybe the actor or whoever to like have a softer voice when he was talking to her. I know he may have been trying to like not have people hear, but it felt like he actually cared. Now, again, did he actually care? I don't know. I feel like if he wants to be a snake and use Kerry, she would definitely be a valuable card to play because, like I said before, she probably has some inside info, or at least it's worth exploring what she knows. Um, but it seemed genuine to me. Benny, what'd
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah, I think that, Roman talks a tough game and he can throw punches with the best of them. But I think, when he actually sees somebody in pain or sees somebody getting
Right.
treated terribly, he goes back to when he was a kid and how he was treated by Logan or, the other siblings. And he does feel bad for her in that moment. And I think, as much as they've traded barbs back and forth and the amount of times he's asked, Carrie to remove or put back in Logan's cock into her mouth, he's still, at the end of the day, he has that empathy that maybe most people in this show don't have. And you don't see it often, but, I thought it was a little, it took me back a little bit, but the more I thought about it and the more I kind of read some stuff online, I thought it did kind of play. So moving on from there, we go up to the room where it happens, and Kendall and Roman are named CEO with the help of Stewie, your boy, Robbie, getting
Stewie
involved
Billy.
in the the upper echelons of Waystar Royco, and helps push them over the finish line. Any thoughts on this, or do we want to head to that scene that you mentioned earlier, Robbie, with the plans as to how they're going to announce this?
First off, shout out Alexander Hamilton. I saw that little subtle drop you in there. Fantastic song. Do I have any thoughts on this? No, I'm okay with it. I think it's
Moving the
standard
plot
scene.
forward.
Yeah, no, standard scene, moving the plot forward. Stewie's got to be in there fucking wheeling and dealing. I'm surprised they even fucking were able to speak when he walked in with that suit and turtleneck on. But
I think Jerry may have got a little weak in the knees.
Yeah, probably.
Jerry must probably fainted.
But before we get to you, Ryan, I did want to mention, we talked about Shiv, how she comes bursting through the door. I almost think that's like another one of our power moves where like I'm coming in first, I'm leading the way here.
Yeah.
She goes, stands by the desk. Even though that this isn't her moment, she kind of, asserts her dominance a little there. You're right, Robbie.
Oh, you heard that?
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Sorry.
The whole thing.
I tried to
It was pretty
Get away
low.
from
It
it.
wasn't that bad.
Oh, okay. Tried to get away from the mic. Sorry.
Ryan, what did you think about Shiv entering the Royal Rumble like she was the Undertaker in 1995?
No, I mean, yeah, like you're right. Like she's trying to um stay relevant in a scene in which her brothers are, being elevated to power. Um one one thing I didn't, and again, I agree with you guys that like Shiv does suck, but they all suck. But I really think it's like not the best day for her. And this is just like adding on to the fucking shit pile. But the one thing I do want to point out in this scene is that fucking dork screaming, "All hail the king! All hail the king!" And then he's like,
And the other
"King,"
king.
and the other king. Yeah, fucking. Ugh. I I don't know if there's been a turn like this in my mind for a character so abrupt in any show ever.
So I was thinking about this when we were talking about Greg before. Shout out my Long Island accent because I just hit talking hard there.
Talking.
Do you think because of some of the stuff that has come out about the actor, you're kind of looking at him in a little bit different light, and it's making you kind of it
Maybe
sours you a little bit on Greg? Because I feel like it's creeping in my mind a little bit.
a little bit, but I really do think that like he's in and he could maybe come back. I'm not completely writing him off, but the past like 2 episodes or 3 episodes, he's just been excessively like, "Ugh, I'm
Scummy.
Greg," like just like such a dork, and it's just I
Yeah.
hate that shit. Like, and I didn't like Tom this episode too because it was like same stuff. While he was a little more intelligent or more strategic about it, he was just like, "Oh, man, can we let's be friends, like can you be in my corner?" Like that. Just I don't know, I just don't like that, like pandering, like just ugh,
Yeah.
squids.
So it's a good, you mentioned Tom there. I feel like it's a good way to, before we do head to that final sequence, um, maybe tie in Shiv leaves and we get to see her leave. She's clearly upset, even though, she, to her credit, she does get on board as much as she doesn't like it and puts on whatever face she puts on. But as she leaves, she takes the stumble, and it kind of seems like, as far as this episode goes, she's hit rock bottom. And I do agree with Robbie that this kind of portends that there's only up for her. Like this is kind of like her lowest moment. She's embarrassed. She feels like she got fucked over by her brothers. But I want to have us talk about the episode, the conversation between her and Tom on the stairs. Do you guys think that Tom was sincere? We talked about how he was with everybody else. But do you think that this conversation between her and Shiv was sincere? And also, why hasn't Shiv mentioned anything to Tom yet about her pregnancy? Robbie?
I do think some of it wasn't sincere because what did he say to her? Like, let me just be. I forgot. He said something like, "Let me just be." I don't know, a shoulder to cry on, but that's not what he said. But I do think that he was sincere. Obviously, I think he had a little angle with it, but I do think he was there to offer some support to her and you know try to do it in the best way he thought he could. She's just disgusted with him, but I do think in some ways, like I said, he was sincere in the moment. As far as her not telling him, I don't know, man. Like, I think she has to, like, she wasn't excited when she got the news.
Right.
I think she harkens back to what her mom said, like, not all women or people are meant to have children. I think
Hmm.
she has some reservations about her childhood and how much she hates her mother. Maybe she doesn't know if she's gonna be a good mother. Maybe she doesn't want to bring a child into this world, and maybe she doesn't maybe want to have children, or and have that burden. Maybe she, like she said, she has an ego. Maybe she wants to continue doing what she's trying to do. So I don't know why she didn't tell Tom. But I think those are some of the reasons why.
What about you, Ryan?
Danny?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think that is playing into it. But I don't know if, at least if she was a serious person, this is not really the time to like make decisions like that. I think she needs to at least try and process her father's death for a little bit, and then maybe decide on what is going to happen with, the baby. Like at this point, she has kind of like, she has a number of options. I mean, boiling down to have the baby, or I should say try to have the baby, or try to not have the baby. But Tom could be involved or not in kind of either of those. I mean, eventually he would find out if there's a child running around that it might be his. I don't know. I think she's just not in the headspace to do so. She needs to
Yeah.
be more like Kendall and be alive and dead.
Yeah, I think part of it is not that she doesn't know what she wants to do. Maybe she doesn't. But I think part of it is she doesn't want Tom's input on whether it's a good idea or not, or how they're going to do it. I just think it's more on her plate than she wants. But I do think Tom was being sincere with her. He brings up, when they first got together, I think Shiv maybe kind of sees that as a ploy to like get back in her good graces. But I don't know. I mean, I really feel like it was the only real conversation Tom had in the whole episode.
Yeah, and I mean she's probably his best chance to get
Yeah.
back in. If he's married to her again, then he's automatically back in.
Yeah.
If he grabs on like a remorse fish to Kendall or Roman, then that's a little shaky. That could end at any time. They could just fire him or whatever. If he's married, then it's a lot harder.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this scene, we'll kind of do these, I guess, in one shot here. The boys get into the room with Carolina and Hugo into, I guess it seems like Logan's private office. This is not something we've seen on the show so far. The kids are kind of looking at his chair like, kind of maybe another wave of grief, and like it kind of hitting him that he's really not there anymore. Who knows how many times they've actually been in that room. They mentioned the Sudoku thing that I brought up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina and Hugo, throw out the two options they have as far as comms go, where they, paint a rosy picture, put out pictures of the three of them together, Logan, Roman, and Kendall, or they can go dirty with it and kind of say that they were the ones making the decisions at the end.
Right.
And, Logan was losing it a little bit. And I think, Robbie, you mentioned earlier, Roman says that fuck off with this. Don't bring this like to me ever again, stuff like this. And the two of them leave. And then we see Kendall take a look at that piece of paper one more time. And I think he sees that ambiguous line and he kind of thinks that, he's unsure, but I think he's kind of leaning towards it's a strikeout, no matter how much he wants to believe it was underlined, and decides that I'm going to be a killer. And he goes to Hugo, essentially blackmails him, tells him that he wants the negative information about Logan out there, but he wants it clean. He doesn't want anybody to know that it's them putting it out there. Hugo wants to bring the other people in, and Kendall essentially blackmails him, tells him, you're going to do it. And if you don't, you're going to get the strap on. And you have that menacing smile from Kendall that we end on. And I referenced it earlier. We get Kendall in the first thing we see from him is him completely depressed with, looking like a lost child. And then that last shot we get of him smiling menacingly. And we get that awesome music over the final credits, where the music was all kind of low key the whole episode. And we get that almost like evil score over the credits. What'd you think about the end of this episode, Robbie?
Oh, I thought it was great. I thought it was, like I said, Candle Breaking Bad. Like you said, such a drastic change from the beginning of the episode. I do think that his ego got the best of him when he was scrolling in, looking at the piece of paper again on his phone. And like I didn't think about it that way, but I do think you made a good point of him like knowing deep down in his heart that that was probably a strike through. And I think that I kind of got to him. And I think he was like, all right, like you said, I need to be a killer. I think it was kind of similar. He's like, fuck it. He did my father did this to me with the whole Shiv thing, painting him as an addict in season 3 with that little
That article.
that article that was thrown out against Kendall, pitting him as somebody who was an addict and what couldn't be trusted and whatnot. So I think that he was all about that. Do I think it was a backstab to his siblings? Yeah, I think so. Do I think it's going to come back to bite him? I don't know, but I think this is the turning point when Kendall was always this way, but he always wanted it to be like, he's one of those corporate good guys, with his little verbiage and the wordplay that he throws around and little words he chucks out there. But I think this is now full Logan 2.0 by blackmailing Hugo as well. I like that little subtle hint, that little playback in the beginning of the episode because you're like, the fuck's this guy talking about? And Kendall's like not even paying attention to him, but he is paying attention to him the entire time, and he uses it against him at the end, and I loved it. And like you said, back to back, they ended on him back to back weeks. They ended on him. Episode 3 ended on him as well.
Someone brought up that if you look back on the last shot of every single episode of the series, like 90% of them are either Logan or Kendall. Like they're always like the last person that you see on screen.
Wow.
I have a bunch of questions about this, but Ryan, what are your thoughts on the scene before we get into them?
I just had a quick thought because I think Robbie nailed it. But when they were looking at the single chair, I actually didn't take it as they were being, sentimental about their father. I was taking it as they only saw one chair and there's 2 of them, and someone's gonna have to take that chair.
It's a good point.
So go ahead. I don't know.
So what do you guys make of I like what you said, Robbie, about him being a killer and him kind of reverting to his father, because Shiv does mention that when they're having the conversation about who should take over, where she says, you're the worst of both worlds. Like you are very much like our father with like a different spin on it. And I think you kind of see that here, where this is something that Logan would do. But what do you guys think about the fact that he's already stabbed Roman in the back in less than 15 minutes? Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. I think we know, like, you do have to be a killer in this role if you want to succeed. I just can't believe like how fast this group, the 3 siblings, are like kind of falling apart. I'm not shocked. I think he's gonna do what he always does and just like explain it away with corporate speak if it ever gets found out, because it probably will. I mean, it's a show and we like drama, but yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I think Robbie kind of hit it with the whole killer talk.
I'm not surprised. I think it wasn't inevitable either of them. One of them is going to do it. Like Brian said, I think it's just how quickly it was done. But also, if you think about it, if Logan didn't die, right? Roman met with him. So
Right.
was Roman going to screw them over? I know he tells him that he was in not so much detail that he was also, talking to his dad as well, but that he wasn't going to get into it. So he was kind of playing both sides and potentially about to screw over his 2 siblings. So, I mean, yeah, I just was, I wasn't shocked how quickly it happened. So yeah, it was, it sucks, but that's just what the show's about. That's what life's about, man. That's what they're pulling from, maybe the Murdochs or other people. So it's based on actual events. This is everyday shit.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think for us is we're lucky enough I think all 3 of us have good relationships for the most part with all our siblings. and to see like siblings on the screen just like backstab each other and treat Connor like shit and like all that stuff, it's I don't know, a little jarring, I guess.
So my last question here is, I think we kind of mentioned it earlier. Has Kendall got the bug to the point where you think that this deal might go south because Kendall wants to just say, fuck it, I'm all in on this and this is going to be my company? Ryan?
I I think so. Did I say that last episode or 2 episodes ago where I thought that this was what was going to happen is Kendall's going to want to take the company for himself?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's going to try. Whether he's successful or not, because he's only one vote, remains to be seen. But it's like he could get out, get this money, and do what they are going to do with Pierce. But like, think about this: like, why sell this company my father built to buy another similar company and try to remake it? Why not just remake the one I already have control of
Yeah.
and be the guy for he's still fairly young, 30, 40 years, whatever.
What about you, Rob?
I don't know where this fucking ending is going. I have no idea. Uh, you kind of like Game of Thrones. You kind of knew because it was booked, but also you didn't because they didn't finish it.
Ugh,
And you,
don't
you also,
remind me.
yeah, you also like Breaking Bad. Like you knew two things: either Walt was going to get away, Walt was going to die of something, either cancer or get killed. Um, I don't know where it's going. I do think that this deal is going to get fucked over. I 100% think that's exactly where it's got to be headed.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna make this deal. I think it's gonna fall through, and I think it's gonna seriously affect the company. I think two things: this deal is gonna fuck them over, and the presidential election is gonna screw them as well.
Yeah. I think you guys said it best. Not much for me to add on there, but I think a combination of both the things you're saying is exactly where this is heading. Don't really like to do predictions on the show because I kind of have proven that either nothing crazy is going to happen or whatever you think is going to happen is not where they're going. So, Ryan, why don't you take us through our weekly awards segment?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, Benny, because we are going to play America's fastest growing, most popular game, Shit Show at the Fuck Factory. Now,
Ooh.
this is a game that we like to play and talk about who lost this week. Who is the big loser? And I don't remember who went first last week.
I think it's on me.
I
I
think
think I
you're
lead it
right.
off.
We should really keep
Um,
notes on this.
yeah, but the
It's
fans
fun this way.
the fans like when we wing it. They feel like they're involved because they're all
Good,
screaming at
good,
home,
because
telling
we're
us,
winging the whole thing.
yeah, the fans are screaming at home that it's not me that goes first. It's probably Robbie or something. But
Yeah.
my shit show at the Fuck Factory for episode 4, I got to do it. I mean, she's sitting there number one overall. I do think that it's going to be a come up after this for her, but for this week, it has to be Shiv.
Good choice.
Okay, I respect it. You didn't take my person, so thank you.
Oh,
Go
look at Mr. Shady. Who goes next, me or you?
Well, I think it's me. I have no fucking idea, but I'm gonna
Yeah,
say
go
it's
ahead.
me
ahead.
because I think you might pick the person that I'm picking. So I'm gonna have to one
Oh,
up
all
you.
right, I see how it goes.
I'm backstabbing you like Kendall backstab Roman.
You fuck.
My shit show at the Fuck Factor this week is I don't want to do it, hate to do it, but I think this was the worst performance in 4 seasons for this guy,
Oh
and
boy.
that is my man Tom.
Ah,
Wow.
you
I,
fuck.
I did not like this episode at all for Tom. Whether written, you didn't get the Tom funny. You got a couple funnies, I'm sorry. But I just like you said, I thought he was such a pathetic bozo this entire episode. I understand it's corporate life and people are jockeying for positions day in and day out, and that's how you succeed in this kind of world. But the dude was just slimy and greasy, and who knows if he was genuine in his speech to Shiv, but just the fucking weaseling and the way he was acting the entire episode really fucking chat my ass. So Tom, you're my shit show at the Fuck Factor this week. I love you still, but you better step up these final 6, 7 episodes.
Yeah, it just seems like his heart's not even in it when he's joking around at this point.
Yeah, it's weird.
House Womgams is in disarray.
Ours is not the Fury. Come on.
Well, since Robbie took my choice, I'll go with the maybe more pathetic but less important option here. And my shit show at the fuck factor of the week is cousin Greg, because he was also a pathetic loser this week. The whatever he was doing, the chanting when they came out as CEOs of All Hail the King, like there's nothing worse than an idiot chanting in a group of people and nobody else
Yeah.
like chants with them. Like, shut the fuck up, you idiot.
Yeah.
He has the
Ugh,
worst self-awareness in the entire show.
he's such a dork. Get out of here. Um, great game, guys. We have America's second fastest growing game to play next, and that is and I have to read this because I always forget, the Logan Roy Memorial Serious Person of the Week. And this is for who won this episode, who won this week. And since I'm going first, I'm gonna go chalk, even though I fucking hate to do it because I hate his goddamn guts, but it's got to be Kendall.
My man.
It's got to be Kendall. He he's CEO now. He's probably going to take a lead role. I think he can manipulate Roman, just like, not as much as Logan, but I think he might be able to manipulate him as well. But the power dynamic is different between Roman and Kendall and Roman and Logan. Um, but I'm curious to see where this goes. Also a big week for Roman, but I got to give it to not my boy Kendall for this week. Robbie, what about you?
Well, I you took my choice, but my second choice you took. My first choice for the Logan Roy Memorial Fun Factory winner of the week,
Serious person of the week.
serious person of the week is my main man, Carl.
Son of a bitch.
Good one.
Shout out to Carl for being a fucking legend in the game, for what he did for cable in the 90s. It's unparalleled. It's unparalleled.
The man who is half in on a Greek island with his brother-in-law.
Yeah.
He wants to get out. He wants to go to Mykonos with his brother-in-law and just fucking live the life, eat fresh squid off a line, do whatever he's got to do.
Yep.
The man is an absolute financial legend, a shark, the head shark, the hammerhead shark of the industry, a titan, as they say. Carl, you are written perfectly. You deliver your lines like a fucking stud. You make me LOL like nobody else on this show. So, Carl, you are Logan Roy's Memorial Fun Series Person of the Week. We love you. Continue your domination, because you are on the fast track to MJ status. MVPs abound.
And please keep eviscerating Tom.
Yes.
My Logan Roy Memorial Serious Person of the Week. He was coming in at a heavy plus 1,200 to be the serious person of the week this week.
Wow.
But it's very on brand for me. The man who is about to go on a jaunt across the country, a man who has a brand new home. The Conheads, again, they stay eating right. Winner this week is my man Connor. He's got a brand new apartment, a beautiful wife, and a tour of the US coming up. So listen, a lot of big things happen, but I've not seen my man Connor smile like this since he got married, all the way through this great deal he made with Marsha, ripping the apartment away from Marsha. I'm very happy with where my man Connor's headspace at right now. So he wins my Logan Roy Memorial Serious Person of the Week.
The man hates realtor fees.
He really does.
Oh my God. I want to. They better show him doing some kind of campaigning across these fucking swing states.
They have to. They have to.
Have to. Oh my God. Or maybe next week it'll still be at the apartment and the presidential nominee will show up and him and Connor can go at it.
Yeah. The man has 1% of the vote, but 99% of my heart. That's all I'm gonna say.
I don't even want. I don't, Benny. I don't know if you watched like the coming up.
I did actually, yeah.
Okay, so it's not a spoiler or anything like that, but he's playing a vital part in this election. He's getting no sympathy votes, bro, and it's gonna come. Something's gonna happen with that.
I'm telling you, he's gonna swing the election.
Yep,
you did call it.
All right, boys, what do you think? Ryan, how did you feel about the episode after the talk?
Better, but still 7.1, I think.
I'll take it.
It's no fucking Miss Maisel.
Yo, fuck you. Marvelous Miss Maisel is amazing.
I do want to shout out before we go. We started watching Beef. Have you guys started that yet? It's really good. Yeah,
right,
we're
I'll
about
have to check it out.
We're about halfway through. It's really good. It's really good.
I still want to shout out Yellow Jackets. You guys should watch that shit.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into Barry this week.
I will shout out Dave. Dave's back, funny as ever, and Barry. Can't wait. I'll be watching Barry tonight.
Excellent.
Nice.
Hey,
enjoy
the socials and the email are in our profile. The show notes. So please hammer us like Carl, the hammerhead.
That's it.
Call us interlopers. Yes, thank you for listening this far. We appreciate it. Hope you like it. And if you don't, fucking let us know about it. Send us an email.
Off. Yeah, please.
Yeah, tell us to fuck off. Well, tell us what you think. What do we get wrong? What do we get right? How handsome is Robbie? Anything.
Stop.
Whatever you want. Look at that fucking head of hair.
Robbie looks like a young Carl.
He does.
I am a titan of the financial industry.
Yeah. So Robbie, why don't you tell the listeners good night?
Night, Hugo. Keep your butthole tight.
We coming with that strap on.